Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Odds Now. Again, we're posting this on my Twitter account and social channels, but this is normally on the Odds Now YouTube channel. We'll get that uploaded shortly while we work out some of those technical details. Delighted to be joined by my co-host for the show, Matt Hill, who runs Odds Now. And Matt, it was a profitable week for us last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly was, Gab. Thanks for having me along. Welcome to the EFL Betting Show. If we've got any new viewers tuning in for the first time, good to have you on board. Basically, what we do, before I go any further on this show, it's very simple. Myself and Gab will take a selection from each of the Championship, League One and League Two that we quite fancy. We'll have a little chat through them and a little debate. We might agree, we might not. But the ultimate aim of the show is to leave you heading into the weekend with some winning selections. And that's exactly what we did last week. Mainly thanks to Gab, should be said. I think this is your best ever week on the show last week as well, Gab. So congratulations there. It all comes largely to one selection. I think it's fair to say it's not very often we put up massive priced selections on this show. But when we do, let's hope that they land. And last week, Morecambe to beat Swindon 1-0. Correct score was your 10-1 fancy. They duly obliged. Lee Angol's goal proving enough in that one. So that was a 10-1 winner for you there. You also had Portsmouth 13-10 to beat Blackburn, who obliged, and Northampton draw no bet against Cambridge. That was a 1-1 draw, so that is money back. So a fantastic week for you last week, Gab. Wasn't quite as good for me. Probably fair to say I didn't have the luck on my side. I backed West Brom plus 0.25 Asian handicap against Norwich, and Norwich scored an injury time winner there, so it would have been a half winner until that goal went in. That was a bit of a heartbreaker, but we did have a good 7-4 winner with Peterborough Reading over 3.5 goals. That was in, so that was really good. And as they've been doing for pretty much the last 2 years running, Carlisle let me down again. I did both teams to score against Doncaster, and it was a promising start, but it ended in familiar fashion with a convincing defeat.
Matt, haven't they been letting you down for 30 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, other than that one season where we gloriously got promoted out of the playoffs, which is now looking to be the worst thing that ever happened to the club. But anyway, we won't dwell on Carlisle. I'm going to try and get through this week without talking about Carlisle, although that might be easier said than done. I normally find myself rambling on at some point, but we'll go straight in then, Gab, I suppose. The Championship is where we start this week. I'm happy to take the lead, if you like, with my first selection.
Sure. Just before you do, just a quick normal service to say, which I forgot to mention at the start. Obviously, 18s plus for this show, and correct, of course, only bet what you can happily and freely afford to lose, and make sure you set your caps and all that stuff to make sure.
Exactly, and it's worth just saying, if you just had £1 on all 6 selections last week, you'd be £11 up, which pays for a nice couple of beers in the sun, doesn't it? So maybe that's the way to do it. However you're following along, yeah, please do bet responsibly, and I'll dive in with my first selection from the Championship, which is Leeds, who go to Luton this weekend. I'm going to back them to win this one with over 1.5 goals in the match. And I think I don't need to go into too much detail about Leeds' well-documented wobble in the last few weeks. There is a lot of concern around Ellen Road. Just 6 points now from the last 5 games. It's seen them surrender control of the Championship title race and actually put their automatic promotion hopes into jeopardy too. They're 2 points behind Sheffield United going into this weekend at the Summit, and they're level on points with third place Burnley. They do have a very superior goal difference just due to their dominance in a lot of games this season, but it's hardly comfortable, or as comfortable as many of us expected for Leeds this season. And unfortunately, that man Ilhan Meslier has found himself at the heart of the headlines again, hasn't he? The eccentric goalkeeper for Leeds, who it's been confirmed by Daniel Farke will be dropped for this weekend's game. Carl Darlow, I believe, is going to step in his place, and Farke made that decision very early in the week. He said to give Darlow the ultimate time to prepare for coming back into the side. It was another calamitous error, or possibly 2, depending on how you view the second goal from Meslier, which led to Leeds drawing 2-2 with Swansea last time out. He did save a penalty in that match as well, which kind of sums Meslier up for me. When he's brilliant, he is brilliant, but he does have these clangers in him, and they're proving very costly for Leeds, unfortunately, at this high stakes, high pressure time of the season. So I do personally think that's a good decision by Farke to bring Darlow in and just take Meslier out of the limelight a little bit there. And he's a steady replacement, isn't he, Darlow? Premier League experience. And I think that's a good call. Well, they go to Luton, as mentioned here, in the early kickoff. So worth noting, if you do want to follow this one in, it's an early kickoff. And generally, home games for Luton have not been the reliable source of points that we would expect them to be. They've had a season to forget, haven't they, really? Still stuck in 23rd in the table. But I do think the last 5 games or so, they've got renewed hope of staying in the division, 10 points from their last 5 games. As I mentioned, Kenilworth Road is generally where I expect Luton to pick up their points. But the 2 crucial recent wins have actually come on the road against relegation rivals in Hull and Cardiff. And I suppose to coin the old cliche of 6-pointers, it really has been. It's kept those sides within reach of them and hold them to within reach of safety. But there's still a lot of work to be done. And when I look at Luton's home games, you could say that there was an encouraging and well-earned point against Middlesbrough there, which suggests they maybe are getting back to their best at home. But I'm not entirely convinced just yet. I mean, Borough are not a team to be relied upon at the moment, particularly on the road. They've lost 5 of their previous 6 away games going into that. So maybe that point wasn't quite as good as the table suggests. I feel like Middlesbrough were there for the taking a little bit there. So I do think Luton have a real chance of staying up now, but I still don't think that I'm not looking at games at Kenilworth Road and thinking, I don't want to take Luton on here. I am still happy when they come up against a real high caliber, high class opponent to take them on. And I think that golfing class is exactly what we saw in the first fixture between these two. It was 3-0 to Leeds. It could have been more. Luton did offer a little bit of a threat going forward, but I just felt like Leeds were better than them all over the pitch. So obviously money coming for Luton and Leeds drifting a little bit as a result. Leeds still very short. I think a best price of 8-13, which is about 1.62 in decimal terms to win this game. The way I'm going to play it is back them to win it and back them with over 1.5 goals in the match, because I just can't really see a 1-0 here. I think there's so much jeopardy for both sides for different reasons that the 1-0 scoreline becomes quite unlikely in these kind of games. I think if a team's 1-0 down with 10 minutes left, they've got to throw the kitchen sink at it, whoever's 1-0 down, haven't they? So I want to be with Leeds, and I think getting it up to even money with William Hill, about them winning with over 1 goal in the match, is the way I want to play this. Gab, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think dropping Meslier for Carl Darlow is a wise choice by Daniel Farker. I'm glad that he hasn't been quite so stubborn as to stick with Meslier come what may, because I think he's made far too many errors now. And I think if Leeds had a 6 out of 10 goalkeeper that did the simple things well, they'd probably be quite far and possibly 10 points clear of the rest now. And I think Meslier probably is to blame for the fact that they are still in the mix with Sheffield United and Burnley. I think, however, I've been encouraged for Luton by their recent pickup. They've produced some good performances, not just those victories that you mentioned away from home against Cardiff, which was a huge result, a couple of big away wins for Luton recently. But I also think that in terms of recent performances, like before this recent run, they lost 1-0 at home to Sheffield United, but it was a really strong performance and they were very unlucky not to get something. So I think Luton are going to be competitive, and I'm not sure I'd be wanting to get with Leeds at those kind of prices. So this is one I'd probably be swerving, to be honest, because I'm not sure I would rush to back Luton, because Leeds are obviously the team with the better quality. But at the same time, I do feel like it could be an awkward game for Leeds.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess I've just kind of leaned towards the class of Leeds here, and I looked back at the highlights of that first encounter between the two, and I do sometimes think that just all areas of the pitch, if one team is stronger than another, that may tell. There's no doubt the stakes are high for both, and maybe Luton going there with that underdog status, which they've used so well over the years. We shall see, but that's the play for me anyway. Leeds and over 1.5 match goals. That is even money with William Hill, the best price on the market there. Gab, your championship selection, going over to yourself there. Preston and Stoke, 2 teams who seem bound for probably mid-table, I think it's fair to say. Preston have also been enjoying a fantastic FA Cup run, which unfortunately came to an end at the quarter-final stage against Aston Villa last weekend. But I think, all in all, they'll take this as a pretty good season. I think it can be frustrating being a Preston fan at times. You know, they're just floating around the mid-table of the Championship most years, never really looking like they've got quite enough to kick into the playoffs, never really looking in great threat of relegation. So I was pleased for them to see them get that cup run and the fans to have something to enjoy. As I said, taking on Stoke here. And you're seeing this as a tight game. You've backed the draw. Talk us through why that stands out to you.
Yeah, the reason why it stands out to me, it partly because Preston North End have been very much the division's draw specialists, Matt. They've shared the spoils in 17 of their 39 league games, which is a huge proportion of games. Yeah. And I think there's that. And also, I think this is two teams who very much have the upper hand in terms of beating the drop. They're in good positions. I think for both these sides, it's a lot of it's about not losing games. Certainly from Preston North End's point of view, they're on 47 points. They're 7 points above the drop zone. For North End, it's basically, can we just gradually tick off another point, or they'd want 3, but another point would just nudge them close towards the 50-point line. And not similar to that with Stoke, they are actually only 2 points off themselves, so they've possibly got the greater need for the victory, and they have won 2 of their last 3. But I also think with Stoke, there's going to be a sense that they wouldn't mind a valuable away point after a big performance, I think against Swansea last time out. So I think, I would fancy a draw in that one.
And I suppose when you do fancy a draw in this kind of game, the draw is an appealing betting proposition. It's probably not an appealing bet for a recreational bettor that's wanting to put an accumulator on, likes to have a team to cheer or an outcome to cheer for. I suppose you're never really comfortable with a draw, are you? Even if it's a draw going into the 90th minute, you're always worried somebody's going to score. But I think just in terms of, identifying value, the draw can be a very strong weapon in your armory because, like you say, there's two teams here who the draw probably does suit both. And I think the way that the draw is naturally priced in football, it's normally priced as, in close encounters, the least likely outcome to occur, when in reality here, it may be the most likely outcome. So
yeah.
I do like it,
Matt, isn't it? Because I think when you're in position, like you've mentioned, why you think there's going to be more than one goal between Luton and Leeds, it's because they both desperately need probably 3 points because they're looking to climb out of the relegation zone. So psychologically, they're both in a position. Well, Luton are looking to climb out of the relegation zone, and Leeds desperately need the victory to keep up pace with Burnley and Sheffield United and try and get ahead of them. Whereas I think for Stoke and Preston North End, it's kind of about just not rocking the boat too much. I think they're going to be a bit more in survival mode. I think they're going to be quite cagey, and that's how I see this game playing out. So, and I think there could be value to that as well if you look at the prices.
Yeah, okay then. So 23 to 10 is the best price on offer, which is just somewhere between 2 to 1 and 5 to 2. So you're basically going to treble your returns with a little bit extra if that is a winner. So that is Gab's selection. That rounds off the Championship for us. Well, we'll move into League One then. And if you're wanting to note down these selections, we will summarise them at the end of the show with some snazzy graphics as well. So pens and screenshots at the ready for the back end of the show. But into League One we go then. And I'm focusing in on Stevenage versus Crawley, which may look like one of the less appealing games for the neutral, I suppose, in League One. But I think there's a cracking bet here. I'm going to chance Crawley a massive 4 to 1. Stevenage have been fantastic this year, to be fair. They've totally outperformed my expectations, but they are now in the middle of mid-table. Like, they couldn't be more mid-table. 13th. And
I thought they were in the middle of mid-table.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But yeah, it's I just wonder with these sides, and it's very. I don't like to sort of single out on the manager because I think it's very, very difficult to motivate sides that are just, the season's basically done. But we do often see a trend of teams when they've done so well, and especially this pattern with Stevenage have started very well, had a fantastic season, flirting with the top 6, and then it just kind of wilts away a little bit into mid-table. It's still a great season for everybody concerned, but if they had a choice, they'd probably wrap the season up tomorrow, wouldn't they, and look building towards 25, 26, because there's a lot of good work going on there at Stevenage. But unfortunately, recent results haven't quite mirrored up with what they did early in the season. It's 5 without a win now for Alex Ravel's side. The latest defeat was a heavy one as well at Stockport last week. They lost 3-0. I still think the performance levels are reasonable, and credit to Ravel there for that. I don't think that I don't think they're on the beach, a term that we use more and more with every passing week. But I do think that there's probably just a lack of motivation there, that they don't really need the wins, whereas some teams do, and Crawley are definitely one of those. I think they looked down and out, didn't they, Crawley, when they sacked Rob Elliott last month? And surprising for me, rehiring of Scott Lindsay. Not surprising in that it's a bad call. I was just surprised that they managed to get him back. But I suppose he had a bad experience at MK Dons. A lot hoped of him there, and it didn't really work out. I think he had very much was laying the foundations for 25-26, and I think the club didn't show the patience required to give him a chance there, in my personal opinion. But he's come back to Crawley, familiar territory. He knows how the club works. He has a really good rapport with the fans. It lifted the mood instantly around the club. And when he came in, he probably did think quietly in the back of his head, okay, I'm preparing for League Two next season. There were 12 points adrift. However, he's come in, got crucial wins over a fellow relegation rival in Bristol Rovers. They absolutely thumped Rotherham 4-0, which ironically costed ex-Crawley manager Steve Evans his job. And instantly they've cut that gap to 6, and suddenly safety feels very much within reach for them again with a bit of momentum behind them. They could have actually had that gap down to 3 if they'd won in midweek against Peterborough. They went down 4-3, 90th minute winner from Ricky J. Jones, a favourite of this show, of course. Gab's put him up successfully a couple of times to score and whatnot. But, 4-3, a 4-3 loss, that to me, that epitomises what Lindsay is going to do. He's not going to die not knowing. He's really going to go for this. He's got the players buying in and believing again. I think to see a relegation struggling team score 7 goals in their last 2 games is quite unusual. So a real good attacking threat here. And I think that it makes them interesting against this Stevenage side, who they just built so much of their early foundation on clean sheets and defensive solidity. And they had 14 clean sheets in their first 25 games this season. That always felt a bit unsustainable, and so it has proved. They've only had 2 in their last 14. So that is a massive drop-off in terms of clean sheets. And I think when you're coming up against a goal-hungry side who have a lot to play for and are scoring goals freely again, it makes it a very interesting proposition. Now, originally, when I was sort of leaning and honing in on this game, I was going for the double chance with Crawley, which, Gab, you always ask me what the double chance is. The double chance is 23-20 odds against with Bet365. Now, that's fine, but I had a bit of a last-minute pivot, and I thought, why am I playing this double chance? Scott Lindsay is going to want to go all out for the win here. He's going to see this as a winnable game against a mid-table opponent with nothing to play for. They're scoring goals for fun. Let's be brave and bold. There's 4-1 available on the Crawley win here, and I think that is a cracking price in the circumstances. I'm going to take a chance on Crawley getting another massive win in their bid for safety.
Yeah, it's a great shout. I think it's worth noting that even though Crawley did lose 4-3 to Peterborough in midweek, they did play very well in that game and were unlucky not to come away with something, and their opponents were just very clinical. So you put that to the victory Lindsay got in his first game in charge, and then the 4-0 tonking of Rotherham on their own turf, and you think, yeah, Crawley might have turned a corner now. There have been similar false dawns. We came to a similar sort of suspicion about Cambridge possibly, maybe having a resurgence under Neil Harris after the first couple of games, and that didn't quite carry on. So we don't know how much of this is just a bit of a honeymoon period of Scott Lindsay returning, but they've given themselves a chance with the performances and results since he first came in. He needs to make an instant impact, and he's done that. And I must say it was one of the bets that did tempt me when I looked at the coupon.
That's good. I always like to hear that we were on similar lines there. Well, look, I think there's an element of risk, of course, but it's factored into the price at 4-1, isn't it? You can take a chance. 4-1, a 20% chance of it occurring. I think if you play this game 5 times in the current circumstances, Crawley win more than once. So that's why I'm happy to chance that 4-1, and let's just hope that things go on my side there. You do need a little bit of luck in this game as well, of course. We'll stick in League One then for Gab's selection. You're going with an odds-on chance here, Gab. So I think generally when you go with an odds-on put, you're very confident. You're putting up Charlton to beat Lincoln here, 4-5 best price. It does look rock solid. Just tell me why this caught your eye.
Yeah, again, I mean, you look at the standard approach, which is a team that's got something immediately pressing to play for versus a team that doesn't. I always think that's really significant at this. I'd love to see what the numbers are. So if anyone's, I might have to be really curious to see what the numbers are on teams performing better again, all that kind of thing. But the long and the short of it is, I really like Charlton under Nathan Jones. I think Matty Godden's in great form for them at the moment. I'm really enjoying Tyrese Campbell and the sort of the pace and flair that he brings out wide. They've got Connor Coventry in midfield, who I'm a big fan of. Greg Doherty, who's a very dynamic midfielder. And they've got a strong squad as well. Kane Ramsey at right back. So, yeah, I fancy them to beat a Lincoln side that, although they've pulled off one or two nice results recently, like beating Huddersfield, I think they're going to struggle at the Valley. So I'm happy to go with the Charlton win.
Yeah, it's been great to watch this Charlton side develop, actually, hasn't it? Because I feel like there was a lot of patience required from Addicks fans, really, because it hasn't always been pretty, has it? But we know Nathan Jones has a track record in these lower divisions of building something and building a really effective unit, but it does take him time. And as I say, it isn't always aesthetically pleasing. But now they're like a rampant machine, aren't they? And I know I took them on a couple of weeks ago successfully with Peterborough, but aside from that, they really have looked like they're galloping towards the finish line. Do you think that, like, what do you, if I had to put you on the spot now, where do you think Charlton finish come 6 or 8 weeks' time?
I think the gap to the autos might just be too big now. Just getting the table up as we speak.
I should be doing that while you speak, really. So let me give you the points totals.
Yeah. So Charlton are 6 points off the top two.
Yes, 6 behind Wrexham in second with 6 games left. So I suppose they're at the point of needing favours from those above them, aren't they now? Really.
Yeah, so I think they do seem to be sort of marooned between the top two and outside the playoff places. So I think they're going to finish in the playoffs.
Let me reframe it then, Gab. If we presume they finish in the playoffs, are you backing them to win it?
Oh, great question. So let's say I would make Wrexham favourites for the top two. So let's say Wickham get into the top 6 along with Stockport and Bolton. So that would mean Charlton would be playing Stockport County in the semi-final. That's a good question. I think Charlton would reach the final because I'm not sure. I think they might have the edge over Stockport, possibly. And I think I would back them to beat. Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I think I probably would back them to win it because I think there's probably question marks over all the other teams that would be in the playoffs. So yeah, I maybe would go with Charlton. I think from what I'm seeing right now.
Really enjoyed the process there, listening to the cogs turn in your head. You went from not sure to actually, yeah, this is definitely going to happen. So that's good. The reason I asked you that is because I know that there are markets from Sky Bet at this time of year on. You could back a team now to win the playoffs. And when the playoff, it's a market I frequently play because when the playoff lineups are confirmed, all of these prices obviously contract because there's only a pool of 4. Now, at the moment, Charlton, despite them looking fairly nailed on for the playoffs, you can get 5-2 about Charlton winning the playoffs now. I would suggest that I'll be under 2-1 by the time the playoffs come round. So if you're of the similar opinion to myself and Gab that they maybe just are out of reach with automatic promotion, but they have a great chance in the playoffs, maybe you want to be looking at getting that onside in your book now. And it's something you can forget about for a few weeks and come back to. And yes, you're on a really nice price. But obviously, there's some risk involved. But for me, I would agree with you, Gab. I definitely think it's probably going to be playoffs. I think Wrexham will stumble over the line in the automatics as well. And Wickham's still got a little bit of a shout there, of course, as well. So, that's how I see it panning out. But as for this weekend as well, 4-5, very confident shout from Gab there. And they do look a solid selection for any weekend accumulators as well, I must say. Well, we'll move on to League Two then. One selection from the basement tier from each of us to round it off. I'm going to go with AFC Wimbledon here at -1 handicap against Harrogate at 2-1. Now, Wimbledon are another side who are just getting a little bit of the end of season jitters. I think it's fair to say are one of a cluster of teams who probably feel like they haven't made good of this opportunity in League Two at the moment, where very few teams seem to want to go and grab automatic promotion. We've seen Port Vale come right back into the fold in recent weeks with a good run of form. But the only reason they've been able to do that is because all these teams around are just fumbling and can't string 3 good results together. And it does make for a very intriguing watch for the neutral. But I am sure, and I can know from experience as a fan as well, this is agonising and frustrating as a supporter when you're in the mix and you can't quite get these results. And the games that they probably feel they should have been winning too as well. The thing that really caught my eye about this game, Johnny Jackson's post-match interview after the defeat to Swindon, and for anyone that wasn't aware of that result, Wimbledon were 1-0 up at Swindon going into the 90th minute and ended up losing the game 2-1 with 2 injury time penalties. And I watched Jackson's interview afterwards, expecting him to be frustrated, obviously, but he was really frustrated. He spent the bulk of the interview talking about the officials and how the poor officiating had cost his team a game that they were well in control of. However, the thing that struck me was it didn't really marry up with the comments underneath the social media post. A lot of Wimbledon fans were actually saying that it wasn't the officials, it was the game management, and that they were too cautious. They could have gone for the jugular and killed Swindon off, and they didn't. A lot of frustration in the fan base, I sense. And I think that Jackson laid down the gauntlet after it at the end of it and said, if we can't win at the weekend, we don't deserve to go up. And he really put a lot of emphasis on this game against Harrogate. So I guess I'm kind of backing with this bet. I'm backing Johnny Jackson to really get a reaction out of his side here and channel that anger and disappointment in a positive way. And I also am backing them to get the better of a really poor away side in Harrogate. Now, Harrogate have been fantastic at home. In fact, that's the sole reason that they're probably going to stay in League Two this season. They're now 8 games unbeaten at Wetherby Road, winning 5 and drawing 3. That's promotion form at home. And it was very well timed as well, because there was a point around the turn of the year when I was really fearing for Harrogate. But that home form, it's really, really turned them round. This is in complete stark contrast to their away form. In all competitions, they're 8 without a win away from home, and quite frequently not even managing to score. So I do think there is a bit of a sitting duck for a fired up Wimbledon side. Now, this game is got to be crucial as to whether Wimbledon can score early for me, because if they do, it settles the home crowd down, it improves the atmosphere. And I do think, as I say, Harrogate, they've failed to score in, I think, 4 of their last 5 away games as well. So I do think like getting 1-0 ahead at home and just lifting the atmosphere, it could bring the shackles off for these Wimbledon players who are probably feeling a little bit nervy, a little bit trodden down with recent results. And it could end up being a really morale boosting victory that actually sort of shuffles the pattern of their season again. Goes the other way and they don't score and the frustrations grow, then, you know, something like a 0-0 draw would be a disastrous result, I think, for them here. And that's the worry, because Harrogate will come probably for, keeping it tight. Can Wimbledon break them down? However, with the price I'm looking at here, Wimbledon on the -1 handicap, 2-1, it's big enough for me to want to play, because I do think if Wimbledon can get that first half goal, I don't think Harrogate have a lot of stomach to fight back away from home at the moment. And I think it's a great chance for Wimbledon to boost morale, get a really convincing victory and get themselves back in this automatic promotion race, because they're 4 points clear of Crewe, who are just outside the playoffs going into the weekend as well. So there is also this jeopardy that if they don't get a result here, they might not only will they be sort of giving up on automatic promotion, they might be worrying about their place in the playoffs as well. It's that tight in League Two. So I think a really, really big game for Wimbledon, a really big game for Johnny Jackson. I've got massive doubts about Harrogate on the road. I'm going to take them with the -1 handicap and at 2-1 and back them to get a really important victory.
I would push back against that a little bit, Matt, because one thing I'm really conscious about with Harrogate Town is that their 3 best players this season, by quite some distance actually, I think, is their goalkeeper James Belshaw and their 2 centre halves, Anthony O'Connor.
Can I just say as well, what a save he made against Tranmere? I don't know if you've seen it. Unbelievable save.
Just brilliant. Those reflexes are astonishing, and that's what James Belcher is capable of. I think he's one of the best shot stoppers in the division. And when you've got a goalkeeper like that, you can stop some of the best attacking teams. Because you've said you're not sure about Harrogate away from home, but actually, okay, you look at the results like the 3-0 loss at Newport, but also they got a clean sheet at Port Vale. They got a clean sheet at Chesterfield. These are two of the best attacking sides in the division. They stopped Colchester from scoring as well, going back a bit further. So that's, for me, that's where I would say Harrogate have it in them to pull off some kind of smashing grab, or at least keep Wimbledon at arm's length.
I agree. The scoreline I fear with this bet, as I said, is the 0-0. I think the longer the game stays 0-0, I think frustration in the Wimbledon camp gives Harrogate something to hold on to. And like you say, they've got a fantastic goalkeeper there who is capable of just having one of those inspired days, and one of those that would leave Wimbledon fans thinking, how's your luck? Come on. But he actually does it quite frequently, doesn't he? The goalkeeper, fair play to him. But to me, the 2-1, as I say, it hinges on the first half. I really want to see Wimbledon coming out fired up for this game. I think they should have fire in their bellies, really. I think this is a big game for Johnny Jackson as well, with some of the fans just starting to question him a little bit. And I think that personally, I'm expecting Wimbledon to come out and put up a really strong performance here at home.
Interesting. We shall see. I mean, they're certainly not getting too much wrong, because if you look at it, they were 2-0 up against Barrow going into the last 4 minutes, and they ended up drawing 2-2. They were 1-0 up against Warsaw going into the last 5 minutes and drew 1-1. And then they're 1-0 up at Swindon going into injury time and lost 2-1. So on the one hand, they're dropping points very late on, which is a real frustration for Johnny Jackson. On the other hand, they're not getting too much wrong, because they are getting their noses in front. So you can argue it either way. I'm not sure I'd necessarily go for the -1 option. I would think it's likelier that Harrogate keep it tight for large periods, and maybe Wimbledon nick a goal in the last 20 minutes, just because I like Harrogate defensively, and I think they're the kind of team that can throw their bodies on the line and block shots and put up that kind of rearguard action. And that's what's kept them sort of their heads above water, really.
Interesting. Okay, then. Well, we'll see how that one pans out. The bet there is -1 Wimbledon on the handicap, 2-1 at home to Harrogate. Gab, your final bet of the weekend then to round us off. We talked about Crewe. I touched on them there. Unfortunately, coming out on the wrong side of a really big game with Grimsby quite recently, and that has put their playoff hopes in real jeopardy. I think they sit on that in that painful 8th spot, don't they, at the moment?
Crewe actually beat Grimsby.
There you go. Well, ignore me. Too many results to try and comprehend here. Well, at the moment, Crewe sit just outside the playoffs, and that is the painful place to be at this point of the season, isn't it? Because you're not only following your own results, you're following all these teams above you, hoping that somebody slip up. I've been there many times with Carlisle over the years. I'd snatch your hand off for it now. There I go. Failed to mention. I wanted to not mention Carlisle in the show, and I got so close. The last selection, I've brought it up. But yeah, obviously still very much in the mix, but it's going to feel like a frustrated season if they don't end up in that top 7, isn't it? They go to Bradford this weekend, a really big game for both sides. Bradford obviously harbouring hopes of automatic promotion. It's Crewe that you want to be with here, Gab. You've done your old favourite, the double chance. And tell us why that is a bet for you.
It's so solid, Crewe, Matt.
Awesome.
And it's their defence. I think they've got the best set of defensive options in the league here. Mickey Demetriou is an outstanding defender. Last season, he was brilliant at the back. He scored a lot of goals. This year, he's maybe not scored so many goals, but Crewe's defensive record has been very strong, and they've kept a lot of clean sheets. And he's the leader for Crewe Alexandra, and he represents that club, on the pitch and off it in the community and everything, just impeccably. And then you've also got younger defenders like Zach Williams, who came through the academy, like Jamie Knight-Labelle on loan from Bristol City, who didn't even get into the 11 against Grimsby in midweek, which shows you how strong their defensive options are. So I think they've got a really strong set of centre-backs. I think they've got a good technical midfield as well. Tommy Lowry, who also came through the academy, is back now. They've got Max Sanders, who I think might have missed out in midweek. Joel Tabner, another homegrown prospect. And I think when Crewe have got a very strong defence and midfield, I would say, along with left wing-back Max Conway, who's having a wonderful season on loan from Bolton. I'm not sure I would necessarily want to oppose them, especially given that Bradford City, dare I say, run out of steam a little bit. Because although in the last 5 games they did beat Colchester United 4-1, and it was one of their best performances of the season, that's their only success in 5. And the bookies still seem to be pricing them as though they're this sort of runaway informed side. So I think there's probably a bit of value in going against it, and to get an odd Crewe Alexandra with that solid defence, to get odds against quotes on them in any game to avoid defeat, I think you're doing pretty well. So I think it's 11 to 10 that I managed to get for that one, which I'm quite happy with.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Probably similar to what you said there about Wimbledon. I do see the angle. I'm just not sure if I can quite get there because of I think home form might just drag Bradford over the line. I think they've won 9 of 10 at Valley Parade, and
Right.
the one they lost against Tranmere, they absolutely battered them. Because I was anxiously watching that game, hoping that something was going to happen, obviously, and it just wouldn't go in for them. But I think, like, I do get it, and I'm not opposed to taking on Bradford, because I feel like there's so much pent up frustration from all these years they've spent in League Two, and it just feels like such a good opportunity to get out of the league, doesn't it, for them? And everyone's almost expecting them to do it, but with that expectation comes pressure, and I could definitely see why you would be cautious of taking Bradford on. I do respect Crewe. I think they're a really solid outfit, like you say, with a couple of really good players. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they're wobbling a little bit as well. I guess a draw. I could see a draw here quite feasibly, which would obviously cop a winner for you. And you are getting a good price, 11 to 10, with 2 of the 3 outcomes on side via Sky Bet.
Can I make one more case that might swing you?
Come on, then. Try your best.
Jack Lancaster is back fit. I think he'd been out since Boxing Day, but then he featured the game before the one against Grimsby, and he actually started against Grimsby. And so I think he can weave a bit of magic. And Crewe's drop-off in form arguably coincided somewhat with Lancaster being out, because he's the one who can provide a little bit of that individual magic in the final third. So that could be another case for you.
Okay. I'm not totally sold, but I'm not again. I'm not gonna slate it. I see it. It's just I don't know. But maybe I got it wrong. But I do think Bradford at home, it might.
Yeah, I get that. The 9 wins in 10 at home is pretty convincing as well, isn't it?
It is. But we shall see anyway. So a nice range of picks for you to get stuck into this weekend, Gab. We've got our summary graphics, which I'll ask you to bring on the screen now, whichever one you want to do first, really.
Sure.
Yeah, but we've got, so this is the point to just recap everything. We'll go in with my best bets first. Leeds to beat Luton with over 1.5 goals in the match is even money. I really like Crawley at 4-1 to beat Stevenage. I think that's a great price. Expect that to shorten between now and kickoff. And AFC Wimbledon on the -1 handicap versus Harrogate is 2-1 with William Hill. Gab, given your comments about my picks, I think Crawley to beat Stevenage would be the one you like best.
Yeah, I think so. I'd be tempted by that 4-1.
You might be tempted by that double chance a bit more, knowing you, 23-20. That's more.
I should have asked you what the double chance price.
That's all right. I know Gab likes to play it safe sometimes, and I'm saying this after a 10-1 winner last weekend for Gab. So
I know, yeah.
I should get back in my box really, but yeah, no, I'm for reasons given. I think Crawley will go for all 3 points, so I'd rather chance that 4-1, and I must admit that is my nap as well. I just love it. I think it's a great bet. Let's take a look at yours then, and we can scrutinise these. So you've got Preston, Stoke to end in a draw at 23-10, Charlton to beat Lincoln at a rock solid 4-5, and Crewe double chance. What would your nap be out of those?
What would my nap be? I think I probably would go with Charlton to beat Lincoln City. I'll go safe with this one.
That's what you can do when you've had a 10-1 winner the week before. You can put your feet up and play safe. Yeah, I like Charlton. I think it's rock solid, and I think you made a good case for the draw as well. Preston Stoke. It's the kind of game nobody will bat an eyelid if that finishes 1-1 or 0-0. Will it? It's kind of it's one of those rare situations where the draw feels the most likely outcome. So yeah, good one to flag there. Okay, well, I think that wraps us up this week on the EFL Betting Show. Thanks very much for joining us. If you've watched via Gab's Twitter feed, do go over and give us a follow. Odds Now _, and Gab's tagged us in the show as well, so do give us a follow on there. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, where this show will be uploaded afterwards. So if you're watching on the replay, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube and give us a thumbs up. It helps us reach a few more viewers. Thanks very much for tuning in. Good luck with any bets this weekend. Please do gamble responsibly as always. And we'll be back next week to do it all over again. But from now, it's goodbye from me and Gab. Good luck. Happy punting.